I drove, and I remember we had to go to Liberty, and along the way from my house, all the mandirs that I normally do visit, I remember I stopped at and took a quick blessing. Being somebody who's been born and brought up in the film industry, this is your extended family, and it was terribly exciting. I remember they had to lock us into the projector room because the crowd got to know we were there, and there was so much excitement. And 25 years ago, it was more about relationships and just doing things because somebody's asked you, or it was chal jayega, because that was the way films were made. There was a family atmosphere while making a film. Now it's more about, the 80s are on, you saying, okay, lunch break, finish, let's get back in. And, right now I'm looking forward to getting back into the commercial stuff and doing the songs and the dance and the action, When I was a kid, I used to not like watching my mother's films. Sarkar was the first time I actually worked with my dad.
Oh, okay. Hi Abhishek, welcome to Screen.
Thank you.
So it's great that I'm catching
Screen!
Yeah.
You're back! Wow! Oh, that's great!
Yes.
Oh, how nice! Screen is back!
Yeah.
Oh, that's great news. My first ever award for acting was for a Screen Award.
Oh.
Yeah.
Was this for Refugee?
No, I got for Yuva, Best Supporting Actor. First ever award. Like, in those days, there were basically two. There was Screen and Filmfare. Oh, how nice! That's great to hear.
Yeah.
Congratulations. Yes, sorry.
No, that's okay. We love you too. So it's great that I'm catching you in the same month that your debut film Refugee is completing 25 years, June 30.
Yes.
2000.
Yeah, wow.
Do you have any memories from this exact day 25 years ago?
Oh, vivid memories.
Yeah.
Yeah, how much time do you have, man? I can go on for it.
Please go on.
So, Refugee was my first release, which released on the 30th of this month in 2000. I remember I was filming in Manali for a film of mine called Shararat. And I came down on the 29th of June because there was a huge set and there were some 15 actors over there, so I couldn't come back earlier. And in those days, the promotions weren't as extensive. Although, I must admit, this whole thing of city tours and all, Bebo and I started.
Yeah.
So we did it for the first time with Refugee, with the music. We used to go to different cities, but we had completed that. And the audio launch had happened. There was a big function at the club. And then I went away for this outdoor and I was shooting. And on the 29th, I remember I came back to Mumbai. 29th night, JP Saab showed us the film for the first time for the families in a small theatre called Star City in Mahim. And the next day was the premiere. And obviously that night, I didn't sleep because it's the first time you saw your film and there were a lot of nerves, there was a lot of excitement. But I remember it was the day of the premiere and it rained.
Yeah.
And everybody panicked because they said, oh, the premiere's at Liberty. And I said, it's auspicious because in India, we believe it's auspicious if on a big day it rains. It's considered God's blessing. And I remember we drove in about 3-4 cars because there's so many of my family and my close friends. And I remember I traveled with my Chachaji, with my friend Sikandar, and myself. And I drove, and I remember we had to go to Liberty. And along the way from my house, all the mandirs that I normally do visit, I remember I stopped at and took a quick blessing. And we reached Liberty, and we were reaching Liberty when I got a call from JP Saab saying, I've not reached, there's some issue has come up in the office, which I won't mention, but take care of the premiere. I said, wait, this is my debut. I mean, you know, how am I to handle, you're not here? He's like, no, I'm trying to come, but you handle everything. So I was panicked. Anyway, we somehow reached, and it was so wonderful. The entire film industry had showed up. And instead of getting nervous, that kind of relaxed me, because I'm like, okay, you know, being somebody who's been born and brought up in the film industry, this is your extended family. So they were all there. They all had big smiles. And I still remember getting out of my car right outside the gate of Liberty, and that walk from the gate to the first 4 stairs entering Liberty felt like the gauntlet. There was a lot of media and stuff, and that was panicky. And I remember at the end of that, Mr. Yash Chopra was standing there. And the first person I met was Yash Uncle. So I touched his feet, took his blessings. He gave me a big hug. He gave me some fantastic advice. And then I remember going in and the premiere started and it was wonderful. Everybody was there. They were all so loving and encouraging. Premiere got over and then there was a dinner and a party at the Oberoi Hotel in the Regal Room right opposite your office.
Yeah.
And that became a long night. And I remember driving back with Sikandar at around 7 in the morning, stopping off on Marine Drive and just getting out of the car and going and sitting there and just taking in the moment that the film was going to release. Unfortunately, the next day, the day of the release, I had to fly back to Manali. So I didn't really get to enjoy much of it. And I went to sleep, woke up, I was getting ready for the flight. And when I got a call saying that due to some bad weather, the flights to Manali from Delhi had been cancelled. In those days, you had to go to Delhi and then to Manali. And then I had 2 days in Mumbai. So I remember calling up Bebo quickly. I was like, oh, I'm free. She's like, let's go to the theatres. And I remember we did Gaiety Galaxy and Chandan. I mean, unfortunately, Chandan's not there anymore. And it was terribly exciting. I remember they had to lock us into the projector room because the crowd got to know we were there. And there was so much excitement. And it was wonderful. Wow, I get goosebumps talking about it. So I remember vividly.
That just sounds great. You've painted the whole week for us. But if you look back, so in the 25 years since, what is it that that has stayed constant in you, and what is it that you've seen it change over the years? As an actor.
Personally, what stayed constant with me personally, I think my features. I'd like to believe everything else changed. Because I think it's very important for an actor, if not with every film, but year on year, to learn something new and improve and try and do something a bit differently. That's been my quest to a certain extent. So I hope I've managed to evolve as an artist. I hope I've managed to improve. And so that's what I feel has changed a lot. Audiences change, tastes change, the movies change. But it's important for the actor to also evolve. And I'd like to believe I've done that. I've attempted to do that. I think the audiences always will decide eventually whether they accept it or not. So I definitely feel that's one thing that's changed. Some things that stay the same, I think a lot. I mean, from when we started, it's a very different film industry today. It is far more mechanical in the sense it's very professional now. 25 years ago, it was more about relationships and just doing things because somebody's asked you, or it was chal jayega. That was the way films were made. Today everything is a lot more regimented, everything is a lot more professional and organized. But there was a great charm to the way it happened in the olden days as well. I kind of miss that a bit, especially whilst making a film. Whilst making a film, I miss that a bit. There was a family atmosphere while making a film. Now it's more about, the ADs are on you saying, okay, lunch break, finish, let's get back in. And which is also great because, I mean, it makes us a lot more efficient and cost conscious. But I feel maybe somewhere we've traded in the fun familyness of the whole thing.
When I watched Kaalidhar Laapata, it's a role that's completely stripped of vanity. And it kind of took me back to I Want to Talk. Very different worlds, very different characters, but both are completely stripped of vanity. When you started out in the early 2000s, vanity was a big thing, right?
No, it wasn't a big thing. It was one of the main things.
So
how you looked, your makeup, your body, your clothes, it was very, very important. But I think that's still the case. It's an audiovisual medium. I think with time and experience, you start empowering yourself and becoming more confident to do without that armor. It's basically that. They're crutches and armor. And then you're also able with experience to attempt different kind of stuff. Weirdly, actually, Kaalidhar we shot before I Want to Talk. And all these films, they all came at a very interesting phase in my life where I was wanting to delve into something far more creative, personal, which had depth of character, I was in that mood. And we tend to, I think we tend to forget that in today's day and age, that we expect so much of our actors, and rightly so, fair enough. We forget that they're also artists at the end of the day that maybe want to do something and maybe might not want to be doing something at that point of time. Currently, I'm in a different mind space altogether.
Yeah.
You know, right now I'm looking forward to getting back into the commercial stuff and doing the songs and the dance and the action, you know. But there was a phase where I said, no, I want to do something which is a bit more intimate, quieter.
Yeah.
So I did a couple of films like that, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. But I think with experience, you just learn to say, okay, I don't feel the need that I have to look like this to play a protagonist.
Right. What has brought this change about that you are again feeling like doing, say, maybe a houseful or maybe an action film? What has caused that shift?
You know, as creative people, you go through cycles, I feel. I think just around 2020 and just as COVID happened and then soon after that, I think everybody was in a particular frame of mind. Things were, in a sense, a lot slower because for months on end you were just sitting around. So the pace of life also became that. And I just felt at that point in time more settled. So I felt, okay, this is the kind of zone I want to do. And then and I did 3-4 films like that. Once that got over, it's like, okay, now I'm done with that. I feel like doing something else. And for a very, very long time, in fact, the last out-and-out commercial film I did till Houseful was Houseful 3 actually in 2015. So a good 10 years.
10 years.
So I think you go through that cycle, you're done, and now you want to, go back and do something else. You say, okay, I've done that, I'm satiated, I'm saturated, and now move to this.
Yeah. Today is also interestingly 50 years of Millie, Rishikesh Mukherjee's film with your parents.
Yes.
And I saw it's a far-fetched parallel between your mom's character in that film and your character here. Both are suffering from something unusual.
Okay.
And their family members or their loved ones want to stay at a distance from them.
Right.
They're not very
Right.
comfortable.
Right. I never thought of that.
Yeah, it's really
But
interesting.
nice, yeah.
When you watch that film as an actor, what have you learned from
I haven't seen
them?
Millie for a good 10 odd years. I must go revisit it again. But when I was a kid, I used to not like watching my mother's films because I used to find them very sad. And you'd end up crying. And I used to get into a lot of trouble because I used to watch them with my sister and she'd end up crying and then I'd get into trouble because somebody thought I'd like hit her or something. But Millie, after I became an actor and then obviously used to revisit a lot of it, is just brilliance. I mean, I think, if you see the great Rishikesh Mukherjee, I mean, unbelievable to just take such a human story and just tell it so dramatically without being dramatic. It's just brilliant. And Mom was obviously, I mean, she is brilliant. But actually, I thought my father had the more difficult role in the film because he didn't really have any of the crutches that the protagonist did, which was Millie. Yeah. The title role was hers. And I thought he was brilliant in the film as well. I think that's what the parallel starts and ends with. But thank you. I mean, that's a huge compliment. If you went back to Millie, it's a classic and wow, 50 years, man, time's flying. Yeah.
It's also 20 years of Sarkar. And
is it?
Yeah.
No, Sarkar was
2005.
But early June. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we finished that.
I think 1st July. Is it
1st July?
The release.
That's right. Because, I remember I had 4 or 5 of these films come back to back. I had Bunty Bubbly, Sarkar.
Bunty Bubbly also,
20 years, huh?
So again, 20 years of working with Mr. Bachchan.
Yeah.
And, a lot, I've talked to Shad Ali and RGV.
Sarkar was the first time I actually worked with my dad.
Oh, okay.
The first release was Bunty or Bubbly. Okay. But we actually shot, just before we left for Bunty or Bubbly's outdoor to Banaras, we shot for like 6 days in Mumbai for Sarkar. So the first time I faced the camera with my father was for Sarkar.
Was it intimidating?
It was terrifying. It was terrifying.
Yeah.
But wonderful memories, and especially of Ramu. He's one of my favorite directors and just so brilliant at doing what he does. And the way he adapted The Godfather I thought was just so finite and a great memory. One of my favorite films. I really enjoy watching it.
Yeah.
And I mean, like I said, you know what Sarkar actually taught me when I remember one evening Ramu called me and said, come to the edit room. I've done a rough lineup. And I saw the first 5 minutes and then I said, okay, I'm done. And it was just till a certain shot of that he took of my father, which was used with the zoom lens, a close-up, where he's drinking tea and he just looks up.
Yeah.
And I said, you know, that is power. No dialogue, nothing. Just looking up. And in that one shot, it summed up the character, the power that he wields. Brilliance. I mean, what a performance. And yeah, huge learning experience to work with him.
Right. Finally, I see this young actor next to you.
Devik, yeah.
Yeah. And you've worked with young actors recently in Ludo and Be Happy.
Yes.
What is it about working with an actor much younger and you know, we can call them a child actor?
Yeah, yeah.
How great of a co-star, or what do you learn from
Devik
him?
was brilliant. So Devik is from Bhopal, so we had that connect. My Nanihal is Bhopal.
Right.
So we had that connect, and he does a lot of theatre with his father, and he was very well prepared. You know, at that age, when you don't expect them to become prepared, you expect to have to handle them on set. But for somebody to come, he knew the scenes, he knew the dialogues. He was very open to direction by Madhumita.
Yeah.
Madhumita is a very particular director, you know, and what I loved about working with her is that her attention to emotional detail is wonderful.
Right.
Sometimes, you know, as in a performance, if it's an emotional scene, you get emotional, you cry, and okay, we got it. She's very specific about what kind of emotion she wants exactly, because that is how finely she developed the characters. Now, for an actor of Devik's age, when we made this film, I think he must have been 8 or 9 at that point of time. To remember all of that and to deliver that was amazing. So I thoroughly enjoyed working with him, and I hope you get the opportunity to meet him. He's just a firecracker. He's great fun and always smiling, and it was just a lot of fun. It was good fun.
Yeah, looks like. Thank you so much for your time.
No, thank you.
Looking forward to your next phase of
Thank you.
next creative phase.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
Thank you.